My name is Radhika, and the topic on which I'll be presenting is transportation of oil and natural gas by rail, road, and pipelines. So, the outline of this presentation will be somewhat like this. Firstly, there will be a small explanation about transporting oil and natural gas, then about the natural gas transport and mode of transportation. After this, there will be pie charts showing the comparison of different transportation systems like rail, pipelines, coastal, and road for crude oil and petroleum products in India and USA. Another pie chart showing intermodal mix of normal industries versus IOCL. Then there will be a brief introduction of different transportation methods of crude oil and natural gas, like oil tankers, LNG tankers, pipelines, barges, rail cars, trucks, tugboats, etc. At last, there is some explanation regarding pollution concerns, and finally, comparing pipelines and rails based on their costs. Moving on to the next slide, transporting oil and natural gas. So we know that with the advancements in production and transportation sector, it has really become easy to locate and recover major reserves of oil and natural gas. Also, with this, the demand of petroleum based products has also increased in every corner of the world. And for this, transportation is very important to ensure the reliable and affordable flow of petroleum products. Even the modes of transportation on land, such as pipelines or rail, have their own strengths and weaknesses. The main transporting systems are rail cars, trucks, tanker vessels, and pipelines. And one of the key differences are the costs associated with transporting petroleum through pipelines or rail, with which we will cover in the coming slides. So now a brief explanation about natural gas transport. So after natural gas extraction, it is transported, processed, and stored, and then finally delivered to the consumer. It is transported via pipelines and ships, and majorly the three types of pipelines used in the transportation system are gathering pipeline system, which includes low pressure small pipelines that transport raw natural gas from the wellhead to the processing plant. Then comes the intrastate or interstate pipeline system, and their technical and operational characteristics are substantially similar, and they both have the same goal, like almost same goal, that is to transport natural gas from the processing plant to the centers of of its consumption. Then the last one is distribution pipeline system, which has the purpose of delivering gas to the end consumer. Now here comes the main modes of transportation of crude oil and natural gas. For the crude oil are barges, tankers, overland pipelines, trucks, and finally the roads. That is the railroads. Then for the natural gas, pipelines and liquefied natural gas in the tankers. Now, here are the mode-wise transportation of crude oil and petroleum products. So here, basically, the chart below illustrates each transportation mode's historic prevalence in the United States and in India. Pipeline and ocean vessels have historically been the most common forms of carrying crude oil to the refineries, as we can see with the weightage of 52% of the pipeline, and here 71% for the pipeline, and for the coastal, second highest 18% and 20%. Rail and truck movements, however, have gained attraction in the past decade due to the lacking of pipeline infrastructure and operational constraints in certain geographies. 16 and 14% in India, while 3 and 4% in USA for rail and road, respectively. Now, here is the intermodal mix of industry versus IOCL. These are for the normal industry, and here is for IOCL. Basically, it is the same thing which we saw in the last slide, like the comparison of the transportation system of like this pipeline, coastal, rail and road between the normal industries and the IOCL. Here also we can see that the pipeline weightage is much higher as compared to the other ones. Here it is almost similar in IOCL, pipeline and coastal. So now we'll discuss each and every transportation system briefly. That is all those oil tankers, LNG, and everything. Firstly, is the oil tankers. So these are basically the ones which are constructed or like adapted to carry oil or hazardous material in bulk as cargo or cargo residue. The main types of tankers are oil tanker, parcel tanker, then these combination carriers to design. These are basically designed to carry oil or solid cargoes in bulk, and finally the barges. Tank vessels are classified by the trade in which they routinely operate over the period of time. And the three most common categories are crude oil carriers, product carriers, and the dirty and parcel carriers, basically. Basically, the crude carriers are classed as either VLCCs, that is very large crude carriers, or ULCCs, that is ultra large crude carriers, and are designed to transport vast quantities of crude oil over many long and heavily traveled sea routes. In addition to this, lightering, that is offloading or transferring oil from the large tankers to small ones, is used so that the smaller vessels can enter smaller ports that the larger vessels cannot. Also, the safe transport or of bulk liquid cargoes by tank vessel is one of the major concerns because of the stress on the hull. The bending here is in the form of sagging, hogging, and the shear force, which occurs when the two forces acts in opposite direction parallel to each other, such as at the bulkhead or between the empty ballast tank and a full cargo tank. Mainly, the gravitational and buoyant action experienced on either side of the bulkhead causes the shear force phenomena. Coming on to the LNG tankers, so basically the high pressure and explosions make it difficult to transport compressed natural gas on tankers. So with the advancements, natural gas can be turned to liquid and extremely low temperatures and transported as liquefied natural gas, that is into liquid. LNG tankers are specially designed with double hulls to allow extra ballast water, because LNG is lighter than gasoline and has additional safety features also. Then comes pipelines. So basically, they act as gathering systems, transmission lines, or even as distribution pipelines. They play a very crucial role in the transportation process because most of the oil moves through pipelines for at least part of the route. After the crude oil is separated from the natural gas, pipeline transport the oil to another carrier or directly to a refinery. Petroleum products then travel from the refinery to market by tanker, truck, roll road, tank car, or pipeline. Now, we know that the strategic planning involves determining the shortest and most economical routes where pipelines are built, the number of pumping stations and natural gas compression stations along the line, and terminal storage facilities so that oil from almost any field can be shipped to any refinery on demand. This is why using pipelines is really very beneficial over other transportation systems. Also, we can say that offshore pipelines carry more risk for leaks and environmental impact than the onshore pipelines, but technological advancements in pipeline materials and monitoring systems have improved pipeline safety and efficiency. Now comes barges. So barges, basically these are primarily used on rivers and canals, as we can see, and they require much less infrastructure as compared to pipelines. But also on the other hand, these are costly transport with less volume, and actually they can carry less volume and take more time to load. But still, it is another option if we see all the transportation systems. Now comes rail cars. So everybody knows that till today, railroads are the main means of transportation everywhere. And in case of petroleum products, railroads compete with the pipelines. Though railroads are usually more expensive than pipelines, but the already existing railroad infrastructure creates more flexible alternative route with when pipelines are at capacity. Here we can see the rail cars attached. Now comes like the tank cars are also the another way to move crude oil across a landmass. Trains can carry a massive amount of this oil by using multiple tank cars. When multiple rail cars are used, a lot of oil can be transported together. Let's say, for an example, if 10 tank cars were pulled, the train would be carrying 1,310 cubic meters of oil, so the amount of volume increases rapidly. The locomotive used to pull these rail cars have a massive amount of horsepower and can be hooked up with other locomotives to increase the power, thus making the rail car a fairly cost effective way to move this oil. Coming on to the trucks, so tank trucks are also like rail cars only, but they usually carry smaller capacities of oil to shorter distances. As we can see, obviously the length of like a tank truck is obviously less than a rail car. These trucks often deliver this fuel to gas stations or deliver the fuel straight to the consumer. They also are used in situations where it would be a bit difficult to use rail cars, because obviously everywhere we do not have access to the rails. Also, it would be they can also be used in instead of pipelines and tanker ships, because gas stations do not require large amount of fuel and generally could not practically be connected to railways. And also, trucks allow a rational and cost effective way to deliver the fuel to the consumers. Then comes the tugboats. As we can see, this is a tugboat, and these are kind of large barges only. We saw large barges in last few slides, so it is kind of barge only. It is kind of a barge only. The increasing demand for oil has led to deeper drilling with larger drilling rigs located further offshore, which has justified building of larger and more powerful tugs and larger barges. Coming on to the pollution concerns, so we know like the every method of transporting petroleum has the potential for a major oil spill. However, the amount of oil spilled while it is transported is a small percentage of the total oil spilled. Generally, we can say this. So, but regulations are created to help mitigate such oil spills. And some of these regulations include forcing marine tankers to have double hulls and making a minimum of two-man crew on trains that are carrying crude oil, even though the least amount of oil spills happen when the oil is in transit. Regulations are still put in. Basically, the goal of these regulations is to make sure that is the oil which is delivered or processed equals the amount of oil received. And basically, there's no oil spill in short. A simple example of this is the vapor guard on the nozzle of the gas pump at the gas stations. Now, like these are basically we can say the comparison of pipelines and rails on the basis of the costs. So, as here we can see that a 2017 study by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that, the contrary to popular belief, the sum of air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions cost is substantially larger than accidents and spill costs for both pipelines and rails. Taking an example for crude oil transported from the North Dakota, suppose, then the air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions costs are substantially larger for rail compared to pipelines. Therefore, we can say that the total greenhouse gas and air pollution costs are around 8 times higher than the accident and spills cost for the pipelines and 3 times higher for the rail. Finally, like the transporting oil and gas by rail is generally more expensive for producers than transporting it by pipeline. Like on an average, if we see, then it costs around $10 to $15 per barrel to transport oil and gas by rail, as compared to only $5 a barrel of for pipeline. The competitive advantages offered by the rail, particularly its access to remote regions, as well as lack of regulatory and social challenges compared with the building of new pipelines, will likely make it viable transportation method for years to come. And at last, we can say that both forms of transportation play a major role in moving oil efficiently, but each has its own trade-offs in terms of benefits it offers. So this was all about the presentation. Thank you.